All right, so we're kicking off this Thursday edition of the SportsMax Zone with news from European football. English Premier League club Manchester United has been prominent in sports media this week since the Red Devils parted ways with Dutch manager Erik ten Hag after 2.5 seasons in charge. Ten Hag was dismissed following United's 2-1 Premier League loss to West Ham on Sunday, which left the Old Trafford club in 14th position on the table. Since Ten Hag's departure, assistant coach and former player Ruud van Nistelrooy slotted in as interim head coach, leading them to a 5-2 Carabao Cup victory over Leicester City in his first game on Wednesday. Well, the dominating reports are that Man United are prepared to trigger the release clause of head coach of Portuguese side Sporting, Ruben Amorim, who is expected to be in the job before the end of the week. Well, here to give us his thoughts on these developments is SportsMax football analyst and former TNT international defender, Brent Sancho. Brent, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mariah. Happy Diwali to you and to everyone in the production room.
Thank you so much. I was explaining to Lance that, Diwali, Brent, because of your ethnic way as well, is celebrated by everyone in Trinidad. You don't have to be a Hindu.
No, you certainly don't have to be a Hindu. It's well celebrated. I am on my way to my Hindu friends very shortly, where I will be celebrating with them and looking forward to all that the Festival of Lights has to bring to it.
Yeah, of course, Brent. I'm missing out, but that's all right. So let's start talking about Manchester United now. They're always in the headlines, and it hasn't been for good results lately. But let's talk about this new development. Erik ten Hag, of course, getting sacked. We didn't get your initial thoughts when that decision was made. So let me start there.
Mariah, let me just say, I think I sense a sinister plot by the producers here in SportsMax, because they know I have been waxing lyrical about Manchester United for quite some time. And they know how I feel about the football club. It is amazing that a club of this size, and the best way I can describe it, between the Ineos and Glazer relationship is Dumb and Dumber. I have never seen a football club that is so poorly run. It is amazing that they have gotten so many things so wrong. That being said, I think Erik ten Hag writing has been in the wall since the summer. Of course, it is well documented that the Ineos group have been looking. They talked to Thomas Tuchel and a couple of the managers throughout the summer. So you just knew that it was not necessarily about, well, they did it because of a poor performance. But ironically, it was probably one of their best performances of the first half was probably one of their best performances of the season. But they were going to always get rid of Erik ten Hag. And I'm not surprised about that at all. The question is, how do they go or proceed from here moving forward?
Yeah, so Ruud van Nistelrooy steps in as interim manager, right? And I don't know, Brent, when I was preparing for today's interview, I stumbled upon an interview with Cristiano Ronaldo, and he was being interviewed by Rio Ferdinand. And in that interview, Ronaldo was talking about the fact that, he wished, because he didn't say too much negative about Erik ten Hag, but he was saying that, Ruud van Nistelrooy is somebody that came through the ranks, who understands the football and everything. And it was along the lines that he wished that Erik ten Hag would take some suggestions or some advice from a man like Ruud van Nistelrooy. So that clearly puts him in a position where he's getting the respect of somebody who has played this sport for quite some time, and not just played the sport, he has dominated. He's won. His records speak for themselves. What do you have to say about that comment and just the mere fact of Ruud van Nistelrooy stepping in the meantime?
Look, he's come in, and it's a difficult situation, as you know, as it relates to Manchester United. He came in on a sinking ship, which Erik ten Hag was a captain of, and he was always going to be in that sort of situation. But he's done well. He's won a game, albeit, of course, Leicester City made approximately 8 or 9 changes to their normal lineup. It's Carabao Cup, and he said the right things. Of course, suggesting that he will do anything to help his club, a club that he loves. But I think moving forward, and I think this is where everything hinges on, is Manchester United have to find a way to structure this football club that is very efficient from the footballing side and efficient on the business side. And the footballing side has really lagged a lot. So whether or not a Ruud van Nistelrooy, and I'm not sure if he is the right fit right now, moving forward, for the restructuring of the football side, because I think there's so much work that needs to be done for them to get back anywhere close to where they were, that the focus should be on new horizons.
Okay, New Horizons. The name Ruben Amorim comes into the discussion. And I'm thinking, right, look at the point in the season. Ruben Amorim leaves Sporting to come to Manchester United. He's leaving Sporting, and let's just take a look at where they are. They're at the top of the table when it comes to their competition. They're 8th when we look at the new Champions League format. He has the opportunity to win titles, add that to his resume. He is being discussed as moving to Manchester City, Brent. Is that a smart move for him when you think about his CV? Because he's not going into a Manchester United that's beating everybody and at the top of the table. So it's something to really consider.
Look, I tell you what, it is a really difficult one if I was sitting in his shoes. But at the end of the day, Manchester United is arguably one of the biggest clubs in world football. I think a lot of what he has to do is based on what he's been promised. And I think that's where the structure in the club, whether or not how much control he has as it relates to the transfer policies and players that he brings in, how much control he has in terms of backroom staff and the type of persons that he could bring in, and how much control he has in building the culture of the football club, something I've mentioned many times on this show about the culture. He's certainly a young manager with a lot of pedigree, but I think it is a difficult. I think Manchester United is easily one of the most difficult footballing projects in world football. And I say that with no apology. So for him coming into this situation, he would have had to have several discussions. But again, this could have been done in the summer. You're right about the timing. Why are they doing this now when they could have done it in the summer? But again, it speaks into the Manchester United management on all the fumbling and bumbling they've done over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and Brent, you know, I'm siding with you on this because I know for sure that Man United's biggest problem doesn't lie with its coach, and you have said similar things in the past. We've seen good coaches go there before and have little success following Sir Alex Ferguson's departure. But how good is Coach Amorim? From your assessment of him, how qualified and equipped do you think he is that, given the right tools at Man U, that he could get results and lift the team back to where it belongs, we would say?
Yeah, no, I think he's not just his record, but I've had some insight as it relates to the way he operates. And there's only good things, lads, about what he does. He's very good at man management. He's extremely good at his tactical acumen. And he's extremely good at being innovative and the way he applies things. So in terms of just looking at him as a coach, he is extremely good. His resume, of course, speaks volumes as well. But I'm sure many that view this program would say the same for Erik ten Hag, because he had a good resume coming in to Manchester United. But when you look at all the things that Amorim brings to the table, he certainly, if you were to choose as a football club, he would be up there in the top 5 managers in world football right now. I think I base that, Lance, on his trajectory and where I think he can go and what we've seen so far. And of course, the history of Portuguese managers, as you well know, as well. So I do think there are so many good boxes that you could tick when it comes to him. But of course, we talked about the elephant in the room, which is the Manchester United structure, which is above him, and how much will he be allowed to do all the good things that we talked about? How much of that will he be allowed to do?
Yeah, and you know, Man United fans are eager to see some kind of turnaround, Brent, because the fact is, as a world famous club and a hugely successful club for 4 decades, it's the microscope is on the team's results, because the fans have been so accustomed to seeing the team do really well. But you've spoken so many times on this show, Brent, about the off-field issues that surround Man United's problems. And every time I hear someone direct some blame away from the coach, I am reminded about a lot of things that Cristiano Ronaldo had said in his interview with our talk show host.
Nope. Piers Morgan.
Piers Morgan, yeah, and he said, and a lot of Man United fans were critical of some of the things CR7 said,
Yeah.
but when something like this happens and the team continues to fail under whoever coach is there, spotlight comes back onto some of the criticisms that CR7 had laid on the owners and the backroom staff.
Yeah, look, they have a good. They are starting to get into what I would consider a better situation. I think Dan Ashwood should have started a Barada, who they have gotten from Manchester City. They're good people. They're good footballing people that can structure things and make things work. But the challenge that that the new coach Amorim will have is the players that are high wages, the underperforming players, and the majority of that football squad was chosen and sculpted by Erik ten Hag. Now, when he walks into that Manchester United changing room, whenever he does sign his contract, he will be looking at a bunch of individuals that he probably doesn't fancy, that he probably has summed up, looked at all the many tapes and think, nah, they're not good enough for me. I need. But the problem that he will have is how do you manage that situation, meaning trying to shuffle them out from your football club, your training situation, and what you want to do on a Saturday, and bring in new players. I'm very sure from a financial point of view, I don't see Manchester United dipping heavily in the transfer market in January. So Amorim has to work with these players. And how do you get these group of players that are on exorbitant monies and has underperformed regularly and seemingly don't care? How do you get them motivated to play the way you want to play? And that, my friend, is a big, big challenge. And that is where I just wonder what sort of dialogue is being told to Amorim if it is a situation, look, come in, get through the season, let's see what happened in the summer. Because, if he starts losing games regularly, then the fans will get on his back and the media will get on his back. And then we go right back to the carousel that Manchester United have created over the last 9 years or so.
Yeah, definitely, Brent. Well, we're going to move and switch topics now. And following Monday's Ballon d'Or ceremony in Paris, where Man City's Rodri was crowned winner of the top award, La Liga president Javier Tebas had criticized Real Madrid for boycotting the ceremony because they were informed Vini Jr. would not be crowned winners. So here's what he said. Let's get that Tebas quote. I am a Real Madrid fan. The most important values of this club are being a gentleman and shaking hands when you lose. I think Real Madrid lost that spirit a long time ago. They should have gone to the ceremony and not questioned France's football system, which is transparent with 100 journalists voting. Real's victimhood is unnecessary and exaggerated. I don't know where they want to go. Brent, your thoughts on this entire Ballon d'Or saga?
First and foremost, I think the Ballon d'Or is just a bunch of rubbish. It really is. It really doesn't have, when you look at the criteria over the years, it's fluctuated, it's moved left and right, and I've lost complete respect for it and what it means. And I don't think there is any real legitimacy around it. However, it does not mean that Real Madrid could throw their toys out to the pram and behave like a baby. And I think that's exactly what they have done. And look, I'm not surprised because sometimes we've seen that sort of behavior from Real Madrid before. But as it relates to this particular situation, I think they are very wrong in of course, snubbing this Ballon d'Or and behaving the way they did because they didn't get things their way. And as much as of course, the La Liga president is someone that has had his run-ins with both Real Madrid and Barcelona.
Yeah.
For this one, I think I may just agree with him.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts on Rodri getting it ahead of Vinicius Jr.? Just your overall thought in how he was awarded and just the emphasis that the Ballon d'Or placed. And I want to think on international competitions because Rodri winning that as opposed to Vini Jr. What are your thoughts?
Well, first and foremost, can I put a caveat out there? Because I know your viewers are very quick to point to stats and who's done what and all these kind of different things. So I am not looking at stats. I've played the game long enough to know when a player has been impactful. So I'm dealing strictly with the eye test here. I think what Rodri has done throughout the last season has been absolutely phenomenal. He's been the linchpin for both Spain and Manchester City. And when you look at the type of play that he's brought to both football clubs, how integral he is to both football clubs, how integral he is to both from an attacking perspective and a defensive perspective, and just the guy's overall play and how important a footballer he is to both Spain and Manchester City. I am very fine with him winning the Ballon d'Or. Very, very. In fact, I am very happy that they chose him because I think he exemplifies everything I like to see in a footballer.
Yeah, and I take that, Brent, against the background of you being consistently praising lavishly Real Madrid's performance in Europe as a team. So I know how some viewers are and some sports fans are. They're going to hear you say that just now, and they're going to say Brent doesn't like Vinicius or Brent has a problem with Real Madrid. But that obviously isn't the case, isn't it?
No, it certainly isn't the case. I'm still getting over the Tobago people having a little bit of this dislike for me. So I'm still getting back into that, and they just started to welcome me again. But no, I am a Brazilian fan by nature. I think everyone knows this, and I support Brazil heavily as an international club. Yeah. I love what Vinny Jr. does. And I've said so many times on this program, this was a kid that we talked about that, of course, Karim Benzema talked about, don't pass to him, about a couple of years ago, and now he is on the world stage. However, my eyes cannot move away from what Rodri brings to football teams and how important he is. Yes, Vinny Jr. is important, but Rodri does both sides of the football. And as I said, for me, that he brings that completeness that I like, and hence the reason why I support his winning the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, and just to add to some of what you've said, I don't think it hurts to point to his consistency, because Rodri doesn't play bad games, and we have seen Vinicius play many, many bad games. He's had some very good games, and his skills are eye-catching. But I've seen Vinicius play really bad games, and if you compare him with Rodri on a consistency measurement, Rodri is far more steady in his output and production on a football field.
No, you're right. And ask any Brazilian fan when it relates to Vinny Jr. He has underperformed certainly for these CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers of recent. And I think you're right. And that's one of the reasons why I like Rodri as well. It's very difficult to point to a bad game from Rodri.
Yes.
And I would add to what you've said as well, Lance, in terms of his consistency. He's not just consistent, but he's impactful with his consistency. Rodri has impacted almost 90% of all football games that he's played in. And there's not many footballers in world football you could say that about. So anyone that's coming about the fills and trills and flicks and kicks of Vinny Jr., they have to go back to the fact that what Rodri brings to impact a football game is much more important.
Yeah, and I think also Vinny Jr. had to split the votes with Jude Bellingham, because Jude also was on the list. And remember, Real Madrid fans would go either Vinny or, of course, Jude Bellingham. So you have to think about all these different factors, because for quite some time, Jude was dominating Brent when it came to Real Madrid. Nobody was even talking about Vinny. Then Vinny came into the discussion. So, a lot of different things. But as you said, you're not a fan of the Ballon d'Or. So we're not going to spend too much more time on that, Brent. I want to thank you for stopping by on the SportsMax Zone. Happy Diwali again. Eat some good curry food for me, and I'll be in Trinidad very soon.
Certainly will. I'm looking forward to it. Have a great one.
Thank you so much, Brent Sancho there, of course, our SportsMax analyst, former Trinidad and Tobago soca warrior, former Trinidad and Tobago Minister of Sport, and the list goes on. We're going to take a quick break and come right back.